This episode of Rec League Pros is sponsored by Anchor. Looking to start a new podcast, but not sure of how because you're a dummy like me, obviously. Well, dummies, listen up, all right? Anchor is the easiest way to get started. From a variety of tools that allow you to edit from your phone or computer to being able to distribute on any major platform like Apple or Spotify, Anchor has it all, and you can even make money right away with minimum listenership. That's a big bonus right there. It's simple, user-friendly, and most importantly, free. To get started, go to anchor.fm or download the Anchor app to get started today. Again, go to anchor.fm or download the Anchor app to get started making your own podcast today. Let's roll right into it. All right, Rec League Pros, episode 13 now. Yeah, I took a couple week hiatus. I know I wanted to stay consistent, but that didn't happen. So I apologize. I know I missed a lot, obviously, with the Super Bowl and everything going on. But, it is what it is. Duty calls that sometimes when you have a full-time job. So, but for those who are tuning back in, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the podcast, please subscribe on all of our platforms, Apple, Spotify, whatever you listen on. Or if you're on our YouTube channel, tap that subscribe button, homies. Give us a like. Comment some stuff. Tell me if I'm interesting. Well, actually, don't, because you may hurt my feelings on that. I don't take comments well. All right, constructive criticism, not my thing. Not my thing. It should be, but not my thing. But this strictly right now. We're done football. We're into at midway through the NBA season. All-Star Weekend just took place last weekend, obviously. Man, I'll tell you something. What a special weekend, is the honorary ceremony of the NBA 75 team. So they had a ceremony for all the players that were in attendance. Obviously, you had the All-Star game itself, dunk contest, skills competition, three-point contest. So overall, it was a pretty interesting weekend. And, at the Q in Cleveland, Ohio, LeBron's home. It was really LeBron's star weekend. If we're being honest here, it was LeBron's weekend in a sense. However, there's some things that went on during it. But before we get into that, let's get into the skills competition, the Rising Stars Challenge, and the 3-point contest and the slam dunk contest. So I think overall, for the most part, I was actually pretty impressed in a sense for what I've seen in the past with like the skills comp and the 3-point shooting contest and stuff like that. It didn't necessarily feel as entertaining as it had now. With the 3-point contest, we've seen better people in it, but it was still enjoyable to watch. You know what I mean? Karl Anthony Towns was in it. Trae Young was in it. I think CJ McCollum was in it as well too. So they had some good 3-point shooters for sure. There's definitely no lie to that. But it wasn't like the highlight of the weekend. Obviously, I think there's more buzz going on with all these NBA all-time greats showing up and being recognized as one of the best 75 players to ever play the game of basketball. But it's interesting still. I didn't watch the Rising Stars competition. I never really do. I'm never really interested in those because most of those guys, there's usually one or two guys that pan out into something and will be, an all-star or a good role player for a team. But who ever watches the Rising Stars Challenge? Like, let's be honest, it's really not that enjoyable. I think the only person I would have enjoyed watching in that is Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball. Other than that, I could really care less, to be honest with you. Excuse me, but the interesting and entertaining portion of it was I think the big takeaway was the dunk contest. I think it was the greatest dunk contest of all time. Yeah, no, it wasn't. That was the worst dunk contest I've ever seen my entire life. Listen, all right, I'm gonna be real with you guys. All right, I was athletic in my heyday. Um, I could, I was athletic, could jump through the gym, could dunk. With no one going up against me. It's pretty impressive for a guy of my stature to be able to dunk a basketball. Not a lot of people can say that. Most people would be like, "Oh yeah, I can touch net or I can touch rim," unless you actually play, college basketball or something like that. And they're like, "Yeah, I'm 1,000,000 360 dunking." And I balled with some guys in college. Yeah, I ain't playing around. Dislocated my kneecap and everything from it, but by stepping on some guy's big toe. But that's the name of the game, man. Sometimes you take some hard hits and you come back stronger. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I'm telling you right now, I could have missed just as many dunks as those guys. I mean, that was the worst dunk contest ever. First of all, you got fucking Obi Toppin who won it, Jalen Green, Cole Anthony, and then Toscano Anderson. It's like that literally was the most uneventful dunk contest ever. None of them got a dunk on their first try, like at all. And maybe they did. Who cares though? Like took most of them several tries to get a dunk they want. They would hype the crowd up. Like it was not entertaining at all. It was the worst dunk contest ever. I could have gone out there with my dislocated kneecap. I could have put the hammer down. I could have got some 8s and 9s. Cole Anthony got a pair of Tims and hyped the crowd up like he was going to do something special. He didn't do anything special. He just put Tims on and dunked. Who cares? There's no bounce in those shoes? Whatever. I guarantee you if you put those on Zach LaVine or Dwight Howard or someone, they'd jam it way better than you did. I don't care that you're like a little midget on the floor. Go go up and slam that thing down. You're in the slam dunk contest. Nate Robinson would have done it. Come on. Stop. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that was just terrible. That was terrible. They need to they need to make more of an assertion on like some of the better players in the league, like that actually know how to dunk a ball and make it exciting, and actually put those guys in. Like the last great dunk contest was Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon. Like that was probably one of the best dunk contests I've ever watched. Because it was sure athleticism. The dunks they were doing were just incredible. Like if either one of them were not to go up against each other in a dunk contest, I mean Zach LaVine won one before that. But if Aaron Gordon were to do a dunk contest like a year after that or something like that, which I think he did, but he was kind of hurt, he would easily win. Like he would have easily won the dunk contest if he did the same dunks he did. He would have easily won that one. That was like a sure walk around. There's been so many more entertaining dunk contests than that. That was terrible, absolutely atrocious, horrendous. Like they're gonna have memes for the century on that. Like I would rather see a guy like Muggsy. I'd rather see Muggsy Bogues dunk a basketball on 8.5 feet than see those fucking squids go back up on a freaking dunk contest again. I mean, come on, man. That was so bad. So bad. So freaking bad. So that, like, to me, that was like the worst part of the whole entire weekend. But I mean, the 3-point contest was good. I mean, Trey Young and Cat going at it a little bit. I mean, Cat ended up winning it, giving the big man some respect as the best three, claiming himself the best 3-point shooter out of all big men in the league right now. So he's starting to make a case. I respect it. The skills competition was interesting too. You had the rookies with Cade Cunningham leading the charge, and then you had Giannis, the Giannis brothers. I think you had like the youngest Giannis Antetokounmpo brother, and then the one that's on the Bucks with him. I think it's Thanasis is his name. I don't know. I get all of them mixed up. It's like Kostas, Thanastis. Giannis. So too many difficult names. But they all did. They were all a team, and then it was Team Cleveland. It was Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and Mobley. And man, I thought, and I mean, they showed, they definitely showed out. That's for sure. Um, so that was actually really cool. I liked what they did because usually with the skills comp, it's like it's one person, uh, like the 3-point challenge in the in the dunk contest, but that was actually very entertaining. Like they did more to it. Like they did all the challenges, but it was a team goal. They did obviously basically the figure eight dribbles cone thing, um, and then they did like a separate thing for passing. They did half court shot on its own. You had to, the team that got it in like the least amount of time won that, and it was like separate challenges for points, and whoever finished out with the most points won. So that was actually entertaining to watch in of itself. My favorite part of the entire weekend, though, was probably actually seeing that NBA 75 ceremony, right? Because that's one of the only times you'll ever see a room full of, like, a arena full of greats like that, right? And not all of them were there, obviously, because a lot of them have either passed away or had things going on. But it was really, really cool to see just like some of the old school childhood guys. Like, it was really cool to see the original Big Three in Boston reconnect again. Saw some pictures on Instagram with Ray, Paul, and KG after all the beef they've been through with Ray going to Miami and so on. So there was definitely bad blood there. But it was good to see all three of them like together and talking again. Like, it reminisce in like the good old days when they were the dominant force and made 2 trips to the finals together, and it was great to see. All the great big men that were there. I mean, Dominique Wilkins, Shaq. Why am I forgetting? Why am I forgetting all these names now? I mean, Dirk was there. Dennis Rodman, Barkley. Wow, like it just crazy. And then you see all the great guards, Magic, or Kareem was there as well too. Why did I forget Kareem? I don't know why I did that. It's kind of disrespectful. The great Abdul-Jabbar, Kareem Skyhook. But he was in attendance. I mean, Magic, Isaiah Thomas, Gary Payton, Jay Kidd, Nash wasn't. I don't think Nash was there, but yeah, he was up on the jumbotron. Who else? That was notable. Paul Pierce was there. KG was there. Melo, Russ, Dame. Some of those guys in the league. CP, LeBron. Just because he was in the All-Star game. Same with CP3, Steph. I believe Clyde was there. Just so many to think about. The few I was kind of surprised about. I was surprised Tim Duncan wasn't there. I was surprised. Actually, I'm not really that surprised because this guy's burned so many bridges because he's a freaking nutcase right now. Scottie Pippen, wasn't in attendance. Who cares? That guy is a nut job saying he's better than Michael Jordan. He carried you to 6 rings. Shut your dumb ass up. Who else? Big time was there. Oh, Kevin McHale was there. Bird, I don't think was there. I think he was on the jumbotron too. Robert Parrish was there. it's like so many old school Celtics were there, and that was really like that to me was like that was heaven. Like I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I think Dr. J was there, I believe. Fuck man, just so many on the list, and like some of them, like obviously, like, and this is the great thing about like you're always learning something new about the NBA if you're a, you're a fan of basketball, like I am. Is like just seeing all these great names, and you hear all these all these great things about certain people like Bob McAdoo. Um, I mean, everyone knows the stories of Bob Cousy. Jerry West was in attendance as well too. Like all these guys had so many stories, and they interviewed a bunch of guys. I saw, was it the Ultimate NBA 75 draft with they did a team for Inside the NBA with Chuck, or Barkley, Kenny the Jet Smith, and then Shaq, and then they did like the Tuesday crew with Dwayne Wade and Candace, and I forget who they have as the host for that. It's some chubby white guy, and and then Dominique Wilkins was in it. Jerry West was in it. Quavo was in it too. Quavo's team was strictly drip. He's like, oh yeah, I'm picking everyone straight off drip. Oh, Oscar Robertson was in attendance too, I believe. Or no, was it or was he in attendance? I don't know. It wasn't. No, because Oscar. I'm pretty sure Oscar's gone. Walt Frazier, that's who it was. Was in attendance, but D.L. Hughley as well too did the draft. It's so funny to watch because like the Inside the NBA crew with like Charles Barkley, Kenny, Shaq, and then Ernie Johnson. That is the one. Anytime they're doing games, that I always tune into them because their dynamic is the funniest thing ever. Charles Barkley is the funniest basketball player ever. Just him talking about big old women in San Antonio. Talking about how he loves donuts, getting into it with Shaq. Oh man, he's so funny. I love it. And then he's saying all these funny stories about him in the steam room with some guy. Like their dynamic's hilarious. So it was funny to see them like bickering about who they were going to pick in the draft and in their ultimate draft and stuff like that. I think they were like, they finished like six. Oh, Sue Bird was also another one too. I forgot about her, which is really cool as well. I think she finished in last, unfortunately, because she was picking more of the old school guys. And granted, I think when you pick more like the closer to the modern day guys, people resonate better with them, not in a sense of like, they love their game or anything like that, but they're just better known players and so on. But really, really entertaining to watch. The highlight of it is like, outside that draft and like the ceremony itself. Outside of it, it was LeBron's weekend. Say what you want about the guy, but that weekend was geared towards him. He was going back to his hometown. The media was all over him, asking him all these questions about the Lakers, his son, because obviously he really wants to play with his son. That I believe he said that'll be probably his final NBA season, is playing with his son, and he doesn't care where he goes. He just wants to play with him. He kind of kept the window open on coming back to Cleveland, which would be interesting. Because let's be honest, he's gonna have a jersey retired in Cleveland. Obviously, he's gonna have that 23 retired. He's gonna have that. He's gonna have his Miami Heat jersey retired. I'll be interested to see if they retire his jersey in LA, because I mean he only won one ring with them. So I'm interested to see if that'll happen. But he'll at least have two, and I mean that'll be really cool to see. But I don't know if they'll consider him for his jerseys being in the rafters. But I mean he has a banner up there, so that's something to really consider, which is kind of cool. And he is an incredible player. I hate to, I don't like him as a player just because of only granted of him going up against the Celtics and beating them every time when he was in the East after the big three kind of parted ways. But you have to respect him as an all-time great. You do. He's hands down the best basketball player of this generation. There's eras of it, right? So back at the beginning of all of it, most people would say it was Wilt and Bill head to head, right? Personally, I give it to Bill, but Wilt had unreal statistics compared to Bill. I always said this about Bill Russell, though. If the block shot was an actual statistic in his time, he would be the all-time leader in blocks, in my personal opinion. But that's a room for debate. And then you had Kareem in his run, and then it was Magic and Larry, then it was MJ, then it was Kobe, and then it's been LeBron since. So now it's going to be interesting to see when he goes, who's the next guy. A lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, Giannis will be will be the guy. That'll be the next the modern day greatest of all time." I would keep the window open for Steph, just because of the caliber he's played at. He's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time, and that's a fact. He took Ray Allen's all-time 3-point makes earlier this season at the Garden. So that to me is pretty interesting to see. But going back to the LeBron thing is he everyone puts the comparison on is he better than Jordan? You know what I mean? Especially after this weekend. Because let me tell you something about Michael Jordan. All right, Michael Jordan is the most gangster NBA player of all time. Forget about greatest of all time. He's the most gangster NBA player of all time. Let me be real with you guys. All right. So this All-Star weekend, right? He wasn't in attendance for anything. And he normally isn't in for stuff like that because he's a businessman. He's got the Jordan brand. Obviously, he's the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. And then he owns a NASCAR team as well, too. Bubba Wallace is his driver. So he was down at the Daytona 500 for the weekend. He took a flight from the Daytona 500 to Cleveland for this ceremony. No one knew he was going to be in attendance. So when he came out of the tunnel and they made the announcement, people went nuts, and they went nuts for LeBron. But the sheer oohs and ahs when he came out, unbelievable. How much praise he still gets. He knows he's the GOAT too. He just showed it was LeBron's weekend, and Mike took a part of it. You know what I mean? It was so gangster. And then they had then he's going up to some of the new guys. He went up, dapped up Luka. He's talking to Dennis Rodman. He had an exchange with LeBron as well too. And then the funniest one of them all was he was in the tunnel getting ready, and he sees Magic, and he goes, "Look at this old head right here." He's like, where your shoes at? I'll play you one-on-one right now. It's oh my God, that is as MJ Air Jordan as it gets. this guy is a middle-aged man, hasn't played in the NBA since 2003, and this guy is still going at going at people. And like it wasn't even like a joking thing. He was dead serious, straight face, like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready to play one-on-one with you right now." And Magic being Magic is giggling, which he had like the funniest laugh ever, but it was like so cool to just see all like the greatest 75 players in basketball, for the majority of them in attendance, being recognized. Like I was blown away. It was one of my favorite all. Like I don't watch all the All-Star weekends just because it can be boring, especially when you have a shitty dunk contest. But that was really really cool, and the NBA did a really good job like putting that all together. So I really enjoyed that. The All-Star game itself, actually, I was pretty entertaining as well. I mean, Steph Curry went off, dude. Went off. And he stole a piece of LeBron's weekend too. LeBron should have went for the MVP. I mean, but Steph just went off. I mean, I think LeBron had like 20 plus points or something like that, and he might have had a double double. I don't remember, but he, like, Steph just went to a whole new level, dude. He was shooting from the logo and turning his back and running back to the other end of the floor before it even went in. He did that like 2 or 3 times, hit 16 freaking threes, dude. He was making it rain in the queue. And all weekend, dude, all freaking weekend, everyone in that arena was booing him, was booing Draymond Green, was booing Wiggins. They showed no love to Steph until they announced him in that ceremony. He walked out with his jacket on, and he finally got some cheers for recognition. And then he went off in that game, and they were just like, "We got to bow down. Like we got to give you props. That was a good weekend." And it was so freaking impressive, dude. Like he just, like we will probably never see a shooter like Steph Curry ever again, man. Like, and I'm a Ray Allen guy. I knew for a fact, like obviously he was before Steph was in it. It was him and Reggie Miller, the two best shooters of all time, and that there was no dispute about that. Obviously Ray, had held the record. But man, dude, like, like it was unreal. Like it's unreal how much range he has. And it's funny because everyone thinks they can shoot like Steph. No one can shoot like Steph, okay? Let's be honest. If you're in high school right now and you're taking like 90-foot jump shots, stop doing that because you shouldn't be shooting jump shots like that at all. There's only one person that can do that. That's Steph Curry. Dame can, or actually no, there's a couple people that can do that. There's Steph, is Dame, I would say Klay Thompson, and that's it. That's it. No one else should be, or Trae Young too. No one else should be doing that. No one. And if you're doing that, if I were a coach, I would bench you. You'd never play. You'd never play if you're shooting a 90-foot jump shot and you think like that's your range. You're insane and a complete psychopath if you think you can shoot like Steph Curry. And like I was listening to a podcast with him, and he's like I got all these people mad at me because they're like you screwed the game up. He's like, listen, man, like I didn't tell anyone to take these shoot from half court and take these long ass jump shots. It's like that's not my fault. It's like they're the ones that are naive and think they can do it. You know what I mean? Like, man, he was so incredible in that game. Giannis played really well. Like he started off real hot, and Joel Embiid was going off too. So it was pretty cool. I would have loved to have seen Durant in it, but he wasn't in attendance due to like the passing of his grandmother, another guy that was on the NBA 75 team. So that was a special weekend. So all in all, I think with the exception of the dunk contest, I think everything else was great about it. I think with that being said too, like I guess we, I guess we talk like have the discussion of like the greatest, like your top, like people's talking about their top 10 of all time and stuff like that. So because they made a ranking after they released the 75 list. Um, they ranked every one of them from one to it was 76 because it ended up two guys were tied for that 75th spot. So like Dame was I think the 76th player in that was ranked. There's some guys in that list I don't necessarily think they had the accolades to be in there. Like I felt like Dwight Howard was left out. I think he should have been in there. I think personally Tracy McGrady should have been in there. You could maybe make a case for Chauncey Billups. There are definitely some guys that were left off it. And that was kind of Chris Bosh. Very surprised. Like I was genuinely surprised about some of the guys that made the list. And then I was actually looking through like their top, like their 75 ranking. I don't know if I'd necessarily have some of those guys in there. Like I don't think I'd have Dame in there yet. I think if they were to do another one, he'd be on the list. But if we're being realistic, and it's not a knock on Dame, I think Dame's a great player. He'll definitely be a Hall of Famer at some point, but he he hasn't won a title. He hasn't won an MVP award. Farthest he's gone is the Western Conference Finals. And that was 1 year. He's constantly battling to get into the playoffs, and right now his team they've made a lot of moves, especially getting rid of C.J. McCollum. So I don't know if I'd have him on the list. I don't think I'd also have Anthony Davis on the list either. That was another guy I was shocked about too that made the list. Again, it's not a knock on AD. I think AD is a great player. He's been a defensive player of the year. He's a champion now. But again, like he to me hasn't proven that he deserves to be on that list yet. I think there are plenty of guys that are probably more deserving that have more of a decorative career than he's had so far. But he has a lot left in the tank, though. Hopefully, if he doesn't get injured for the millionth time. So those were two that were kind of questionable to me. I don't know enough about some of the older guys that were at the bottom of that list, so I can't really speak on some of them. I was listening to like JJ Redick's podcast and he was talking about one guy, and I forget who it is off the top of my head, and he's like if he made the NBA 75 list, I'd love to go one-on-one against him in my prime just so I could make the NBA 75 list. He's like, I would bust him. It's like, so there's that. But let's get into this top 10 because I believe the top 10 they had, if I remember right, excuse me, but I know they had Kobe at 10. I think Oscar Robertson was 9. Who was 8? Tim Duncan was 8. 7 and 6 were Bill Russell and Larry Bird. 5 was Wilt Chamberlain. 4 was Magic. 3 Kareem. 2 LeBron, and 1 was MJ. So it's kind of tough. Like, to me, I don't think they should be doing rankings, right? Just because these guys all played in a different era, right? Like, if we're being honest, like the skill level of, per se, like a Bob Cousy, who was like one of the greatest Celtics of all time, he only dribbled with one hand. Like, he wouldn't be able to play in the modern day NBA. And then there's some guys that are in the NBA right now that probably couldn't play in like the 80s or 90s because it's too physical of a game. They could shoot threes and so on, but the defense I think was more intense. you weren't able to draw fouls like you are now. You can't do all that stuff. So the debate is it's a flawed debate. It's based off of statistics and championships. And if it's really like off of that, then like Bill Russell should be in that discussion. Then he's the most winningest NBA basketball player of all time. He's got 11. He's got more rings than fingers. Anyone ever think of that? No one's been able to touch that. Not even MJ. So if we're doing it off of that, then maybe it should be Bill Russell, not MJ or LeBron. But that's the reality we live in. So I'll say this, because I don't necessarily agree with the top 10 order, because Shaq should be in that conversation, in my personal opinion, because Shaq, I think, was 11, and Kobe should be higher on that list. He should not be 10. That was a little bit of disrespect. He had a better career. No knock on my boy Larry Bird. No knock on Bill Russell. No knock on Magic or Kareem. He should at least be top 3 or 4. He should be in that conversation. The 4 guys that should be in that conversation for greatest of all time: Mike, LeBron, Kobe, Kareem. I think and then Magic's a distant 5. I think that's a pretty fair statement to stay. And the reason I say that is he's one of the all-time leading scorers. Obviously, Kareem is number 1 on that list. He has 5 rings. He's one of the few guys that had a dynasty that went back to back to back. The only thing that he doesn't have a whole lot of, and that's because of some of the talent that was in the league with him at the time, in LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Dirk, Tim Duncan, is the MVP thing. And he definitely should have had more MVPs than he actually did. That's one thing I think that's flawed him from the conversation. But he's definitely, there's no argument. Like, Kobe should be in that conversation. Kareem gets the short end of the stick, and that's unfair as well too. I mean, he's the all-time leading scorer. LeBron's going to end up passing him, but he's been the all-time leading scorer for decades. No one's been able to touch his record. The only person that's going to is LeBron. That'll be the only guy that will be able to remotely touch his record. So I'm shocked that he's not in that conversation, right? The thing with the LeBron and MJ thing, here's the thing about it, all right? I think kids that are in this day and age now are like, LeBron's the greatest player of all time. If you're someone my age or older, most people would say MJ is the greatest player of all time. It's tough to compare the two because they're two, like, all these guys are all different players. The only two that are really similar is like Kobe and Mike, because they're literally identical of each other. So maybe that's a comparison. But LeBron is not MJ. MJ is not LeBron. LeBron is a more all-around player. Mike's more of a winner, though. Mike knows how to win basketball games. And I'm not saying LeBron doesn't know how to win basketball games, but, he's won 4 championships. He went to the finals from every year from 2011 to 18? And he also he won twice with Miami in back-to-back, and he won one in Cleveland. And then obviously he won that championship in the bubble in 2020. But from 2011 to 2018, he won half of those finals. So that's that's the big knock that LeBron has. But LeBron has him in scoring now. I mean, LeBron's more on the all. I think he's more on the all-time assist list. More, you know, he's more on like all-time lists than LeBron is, or than Mike is. Excuse me, but I mean, he's still a great player. I think when it's all said and done, though, you can once I think he gets Kareem's scoring record, it'll be a much more difficult conversation to have because you can't necessarily knock all the statistics in the world. I mean, LeBron is a freak of nature. You know, he's one of the strongest players anyone's ever seen in the NBA. He's dominant. He basically is like he's like in comparison to Magic, but with a better jump shot and more athleticism. That's really who he is in some sense of the word. But it's tough to put those two in comparison, and anyone in comparison, because everyone's played in different eras. The only ones you can really compare are the ones that played against each other in their prime. So Kobe and LeBron, Dwayne, Kobe, LeBron, Dwayne, Melo, Dirk, Tim, Steve Nash, KG, Pierce, Ray Allen, like all those guys all played together, played against each other together, all in their prime. So that, like, you can compare those guys, and clearly it's like you're really just comparing Kobe and LeBron, because Dwayne was on a different tier. KG, unfortunately, had he not had the injuries he had, was on a different tier. You can put Tim in the conversation, but Tim's kind of on a different wavelength per se as well too. Like he would be more comparable to like Dirk and Shaq and those guys. So you know, it's an up in the air, debatable thing. So I would say this is my top 10, my personal opinion, and this is in no particular order. Because I'm not doing that. I'm not saying LeBron's better than MJ. I'm not saying MJ is better than LeBron. I think it's a stupid argument. I think it's oversaturated, and I think people just get tired of it. In no particular order, top 5. MJ, LeBron, Kobe, Kareem, Magic. The other 5 in the top 10, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Tim Duncan, and then Shaq. I know most people would be like, I'd take Tim Duncan out and put Oscar Robertson in, or Steph or whoever in, Jerry West. I don't agree with that. No, you have to have Tim in. Tim's the greatest power forward of all time. That's not an argument. That is a fact. He's the greatest power forward of all time. He won. You know, people forget how many titles he won in San Antonio. It was, you know, he beat LeBron twice in the finals. One in early in his career, and then one probably towards his peak, if not at his peak. But it's tough to say LeBron's peak, because LeBron hasn't necessarily slowed down either. So that's a difficult conversation, debate and conversation to have. You know, he's won MVPs, has won Finals MVPs. You know, they've had the best record in the NBA. He's had the best record in the NBA before. It was really LA and San Antonio that were controlling the West. Dirk had some good teams, but they weren't really measurable to San Antonio. Same thing with Denver. I think Denver, when Melo was there, they had a squad too, and they couldn't get it done as well. And then, you know, same thing with Phoenix. I think Phoenix had a good team. They it was either they were getting run out by the Lakers, run out by the Spurs, and Steve Nash is an MVP caliber point guard. And again, one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game as well too. Evident by the NBA 75 list. So it's an interesting conversation to continuously talk about, but that I think right now is my for sure lock. I think what will end up happening at some point eventually is I think Steph will be in the conversation of top 10, maybe even top 5 by the time his career ends. Some people say KD would be in the conversation. I don't necessarily know about that yet, because he went to Golden State and played with Steph and Clay and Dre, and they had already won championships before he was there. So that's a difficult, turn of events to think about. I think they had Giannis way too high on that list. Like, he was in the top 20, and I was like, he's won one championship, a couple MVPs, and a couple Defensive Player of the Years, and you're putting him that high on the list already. It's like, I don't know about that yet. It's like, let him win a couple more titles, and then we'll talk. But it is impressive that he has that one with Milwaukee. I was surprised KG wasn't in like the top 20. I think he was 21 or something. I think he was just as good of a player as Dirk was, and I think had he been healthy in the latter half of his career after Boston, I think he would have been great. So it's a great discussion to have. It's like a great barbershop discussion to have, but it's not one of those things where you can just rank guys 1 to 75. I don't think that's the case. I think you have tiers of guys where you put a tier in the top 10, you put a tier in the top 20, top 30, but you can't rank those guys in that manner. Once there's guys in the top 10, you can't, especially the top 5, it's hard to be like, this guy's better than this guy, and they're in two different eras of basketball. But that's an ESPN thing, and everyone will do that. I think if you're an old head, most people are going to be stubborn and be Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time, and that's going to be the case until LeBron retires, and then people of that generation are going to be like, LeBron's the greatest player of all time. So it's a tough one to think about, but overall, that 75 team was so, in the ceremony and everything, was so cool. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. I wish like the MLB and the NFL would do something like that as well too, but they probably won't. But it's also cool to see the history of where the game's been, from having, from being this game that started out with peach baskets to being predominantly white, to bringing in bringing in black players like Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain and Elgin Baylor, to being predominantly black and having money issues and pre-recorded games and so on, to the Magic of Bird era, bringing basketball back to kind of the promised land per se, and then to the MJ era of where guys were really starting to get paid, into what it is now, where it's these guys making millions and millions of dollars, generational wealth, and understanding the value of a dollar now. It's crazy. It's really crazy to see how far the NBA's come, not just in that manner, but on a global level as well too. I mean, now we have now our league's very European as well too. You have guys like Giannis and Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. It's that to me is really cool as well too. Dragic can't and his Cantor freedom. So that's enjoyable to watch too. But I think all in all, it'll be interesting to see when I think the next one they'll do is the NBA 100 list. I'll be interested to see what 25 players make that list that weren't on the 75 list, like who will be part of that? Because there's going to be some like young guys like a Luka, like a Tatum, Devin Booker, that didn't make this list because they were super young to like, can I strive to get to that list? And so far, none of them really have a head start yet in the league in that manner, just because they're all like 25 and under basically. So, but all in all, it was a great weekend to watch. I enjoyed it. That dunk contest did suck though. For anyone that said that was an enjoyable dunk contest, they're like out of their minds, batshit crazy. That was a terrible one. But I'm about 50 minutes already on the dot. So I guess I'll cut it here. But again, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my rant of the NBA 75 all-time list. I'll get this up ASAP. I'm recording this on a Wednesday, so hopefully I can get this out, by Friday. Fingers crossed. But we'll see how it goes, and it'll be interesting to see how the NBA pans out for the second half of the year. Your boy Dan's out. Rec League Pros, episode 13. We'll see you soon.